And then
but he did it. They did it. These four did it.
And then the question about the orphan scrolls, what was that question again?
The orphan scrolls, so when they were registering them, they were, not every scroll was from a city. You see. And sometimes they were brought from the hamlets around into a city. So then they took them and recorded them. So they recorded it, either they got it from a hamlet that had no name. It was for a bunch of farmers in this area or several little groups of places. You know, when you get 10 or 15 families, that's a synagogue. And they named it on that central area so they can keep the identity of where it was still somehow coherent. But what people often do is they take one of the hamlets of that area as their town.
So this particular Torah has no regional.
No, it doesn't have.
I mean, it has
it's
no
not specific to a city or affiliate, but it has a definite area, which is
no
not a large area. It's a very small area, probably as small as areas that you'd have in one of the major cities around here, or small cities around here.
So, if you were to look at this scroll, independent of knowing that it was from the Czech Republic, from the Holocaust, survived the Holocaust, you know, all Torah have the same. There's nothing on them that tells you stamped on it saying.
No, and the Sofer never signs his name.
I know. So how would you know? Is there something characteristic about it that tells you that information?
Yeah, so the first thing always I know is that they're basically on the light side or they're tall. If we would try to make a Torah a certain height, we can have some Holocaust Torahs that are this high and you can lift it with one hand. We can't do that today. That ability to make that kind of a parchment, we can't do. We don't have to do it. So that's one thing. Second thing is the stitching here, is the loop stitching. So when I open it up, the first thing I see is the way it's stitched. But there's still a certain percentage of Czech Torahs that are not stitched this way, or have been restitched when they were put together in a tailor stitch, up, down, up, down, up, down. This is a loop stitch. Very, very interesting. But the more fascinating thing about here, which I'm looking for now and I haven't yet seen it, but a very large percentage, you come a little closer, very large percentage of the Torahs in that area were written after the influence of the Maharal of Prague. The Maharal of Prague was like a master scientist. He was known, like he every field of science he was a master of, and he was and there's a statue of him and his golem, not made by a Jew but made by the Czechs, because they were fascinated. This man was unbelievable.
You might explain the connection between the golem.
Oh, you know what the golem is? The famous golem. The golem was something that he made out of clay, and he was a sofer. Maharal of Prague was a sofer, a descendant of King David, and he had a tradition in his family of something I'm about to tell you, and then he would write the name of God. And there are many ways of writing it, but there are certain ways of writing it, which I won't go into detail now, on parchment prepared a certain way, and he put it on the forehead of the clay, and it would come to life. But you don't fool around with, hey, what, I can make toys, I can make... No, he did it because there was a lot of difficulties from the surrounding neighbors of the Jews annoying us. And this golem would wander around, make sure no one annoyed us. And it became very famous until the Czechs got the point and they stopped annoying us. So he put the golem to sleep in an attic. And that attic, even the Nazis didn't enter. They did destroy that building. They didn't go into that attic. Interesting.
Perhaps
make your own conclusions from that. I don't know.
I'll tell that story again on the end of October, Friday evening. I've done that one a lot. I have a lot of beautiful books. There are a lot of wonderfully animated books on the story. It's one of my favorites.
But you should know, my son, aside from being a scribe, is a playwright. When he was in Yeshiva, he wrote several plays, hysterical plays. And his famous hysterical play was The Golem of Chelm. It was hysterical. You could fall on the floor laughing. It turns out that Chelm, there is a golem from Chelm. And Chelm was the place of wise men, in spite of what you think. And they were able to do the golem also. Interesting.
What is the substance of the ink that's used?
Okay, let me get to the substance. Just before, let me tell you about the Maharal of Prague and his tradition. Okay, King David. So he actually enabled to put in the Torahs things that you normally do not see. And when you see these letters that you only see in the Czech folio of 1564 Torahs, and occasionally outside of that, remember Jews had contact with other Jews all over the place. So sometimes they would learn part of the tradition, but not the whole tradition. So it's mainly only in Czech and under his scrolls. He had the tradition from King David of a book called the Sefer Tagim, which is a book of, we call it crowns. But in the book of crowns, it tells you how letters are really formed. Letters are not formed the way you think, like ABCs. They are pulled into existence from a place called crown, which is above mind, called superconsciousness. So, and they all form from a letter Yud. All letters are made from a letter Yud. Now, every letter means something in Hebrew. And the meaning, now this one, anyone who's into literature or anything like that, I don't understand what I'm about to say, but I love it. The meaning of words in Hebrew are given to you by the letters. You don't use the letters as simply as conveyors of sound. The letters are silent, but the letters themselves, in their progression of 1, 2, 3, give you the meaning of the word. Of course, the letters mean something in many. I can spend at least a week on every letter telling you something about of the things that it means. As they come together, they then form the meaning of the word. Part of the meaning is also the form of the letter. In the form of the letter, which is the most down to earth, which means the meaning is more still up here, but it has to appear. Otherwise, you're left with, it's too much. But when the letter is formed, it's really formed from a yud. And the yud means yad, which means hand. And what's the highest part of your body above your brains? Yad means hand. The highest part of your body above your brains is your hand. It's 3 dimensions, 1, 2, 3, above your head. And every letter has 1, 2, or 3 crowns. It cannot exist without a crown. And these levels of dimension are superconsciousness, which you all have, and you all relate to. And I'm not telling anything that is not yours. I'm not going to say, now here's something you don't know, and you don't have, and I'll teach you how to get it. No. All Jewish tradition, what you call Kabbalah, is not Kabbalah, but Kabbalah is showing you things that you have already and do already, but don't resonate with. Which means you can be a master musician, but don't get into it. But someone can see that you're a master musician, and I can show you how to then utilize it. But I can't make you a master of music unless you have this already a connection to it. Okay? So all these things, all that I'm talking about, these super level, you all are relating to.